So what I need is the average of these scores by gender so that I can compare the two. So I'm going to use a formula called average if, and notice that when I start typing it automatically comes up, and then it also tells me what I need to select next. So I need the criteria range. Where is the criteria? Well, the criteria for this is my gender. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to select the column that has, actually the cells, not the entire column, but the cells that have my gender in it. And then I'm going to do a comma, and it's going to tell me the next thing I need, which is a criteria. Now, if this criteria was a number, I could do greater than and less than, something like that. But since it is text, I'm just going to, I was on the boys, so I'm going to do male for M for male. And because it's text, I need to put it in quote marks. So I'll do quote M. And then I need to select the average range. Well, this is the range of the averages right here. Select those, press enter, and now I have a decimal that is an average of those averages. So I can just come up here, click percentage sign, and now it's a percent. Now I need to do the same thing for the girls. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't like typing or selecting a lot of extra stuff. So I'm going to drag this formula down, and it is going to try to automatically adjust those cells. It tries to go to the next one. So you see the average is different. Well, that's not what I want. So I can't drag it, but what I can do is copy and paste. And you know what? It's trying to be too smart for me. So let me just do it this way. Let me copy the actual formula up here. Switch cells. Paste it up here because the only thing I need to change is that M to an F. And I can see that it's still at 54, 9 to 54. So 54 is the last row, so everything's correct. Enter. And now I have my percent for the girls. So now I can look at my question and say, on average, who performed better on this assessment, boys or girls? So on my spreadsheet, to indicate my answer, I can just highlight in yellow that my belief is the boys did better. Okay, so you see how we answered the question here by using the data in the spreadsheet. Now, this one is to find out if they did equally well on each learning standard. Now, each learning standard are these up here. And remember, I told you that some of these are repeated. So we need to do a little bit of work so that we have, number one, a list that we can work with. When data is horizontally, it's easy to read like a table, but it sometimes is a little bit difficult to do some further calculations on. So there's a handy little tool. And I'm just going to come down here to a blank space. And I'll be honest, I believe I forgot to delete this from the original template. So depending on when you downloaded the template, you may already have these simple results here, but it's a simple formula that I want you guys to see. So what I want to do is I want to make this list that goes all the way across into a vertical list. So what I'm going to do is use a formula called, or a function called transpose. And it says it transposes the rows and columns of an array. So I'm going to click that, and then I need to select what I want to transpose, which are my standards. And I'm going to select all the way across to make sure I get them all. And when I hit enter, look what it has done. It has simply taken those cells and now put them into a vertical list. But before I can calculate this per standard, I need to do something about the ones that are duplicates. So I'm going to use another formula, and I'm just moving here because I need to do something with this data. And so this formula is really handy. It's called unique. And it's going to give me the unique values from the area, the range I select, And now you see that I have 1, 2, 5, 6, 3, 4, 7 because the numbers are different. So now these are the only unique values in this list. So that means now I can calculate their score based on this standard. Because remember what it's asking, do they do equally well on each learning standard? So now what I need to do is find out how well they're doing on each standard. And this is the overall class average. So this is what I'm going to be comparing, and this will be my criteria. So for my first standard, I'm going to use my same formula again that I used earlier, and I'm going to say equal sign average if, and the first thing I need is my criteria range. So my criteria range is the standard. So I'm going to select the row that has the standards in it. And I'm going to do a comma because the next thing I need is my criteria. Now my criteria in this case is the first standard I'm looking for. So I'm going to click that cell, and I think I can do this without quotes. So then I'm going to do a comma, and I'm going to say, okay, where are the averages I want to average? And that is this row here. Notice I'm not including my total. And now it has given me this very long decimal, but if I click that to be a percentage, now I have my percentage of how students did on just questions for that first standard. It averaged these. So this is the long drawn out version of it. It took the average of this one, and I think that's the only two for that standard. So basically it's really just averaging these two. But by doing this formula, I was letting the computer, letting the spreadsheet figure out which ones it needed to do. Now, wouldn't it be great if I could just copy this down? But I can't because it doesn't know what to divide by because I haven't given it the right information. So what I do need to do though is I can take this again and I can copy my formula, go to my next cell, paste my formula, but this time I don't want to look for K58, this cell. I want to look for K59. So really all I have to do is change that to a 9, and now I have it. Okay, so what you can do is if you, now that's going to advance my cell. So we are going to have to copy it. Now that I've got it copied, I can come up here, paste. This one would be 60. Get the next one, paste, 61, paste, 62, 63, and finally paste 64. It's not formatted as a percent, so I'll do that quickly. So now I have their average score per standard. And so now what I can do is, thinking back to my question, on average, did students do equally well on each learning standard? Well, the question to this is obviously no, they didn't do equally well because you can see I have some significant differences. I have as high as 80 and as low as 59.9. So what I would do to show this inequality is I could take my lowest one and maybe highlight my lowest ones red. Take my highest, yes, 80 is my highest, and highlight it green. And I can see that there's a significant difference between those two. Now, what does this tell you in the real world of educational data? These are standards that are being taught, and students aren't getting this 3OA-C7. So however we're teaching that, we need to do better. We need to figure out what the problem is with this one, certainly with B5, and really across the board with several of them. Looks like we're doing pretty good on 3OA-A4, but this is how you look at and evaluate your teaching overall. Are you addressing all the standards at a good level? So that's what you might be using this. So the same thing, do students struggle more with each item type or with item rigor? So the choice of question type, and I've basically done the first couple for you. You're going to use the exact same type of formula, except your question type is going to be your criteria for one of those, and your rigor level is going to be the criteria for the second one. And then you're going to calculate, so you'll have basically two formulas to calculate rigor, two formulas up here, question type, you'll have two formulas, rigor type, you'll have two formulas, and then you will answer the question. Do they struggle more with item type or item rigor? And you're going to look at the data and tell me how to do that. Now, if you need to actually type words, simply come down here and say, students struggle more with high rigor questions than they do with multiple choice type. And that's not right. So don't think that I'm giving you the right answer on this one, but I'm just saying you can just answer. You can just give me some text to answer the next question. And then finally, given data on grit score, attendance, feeder school, and homeroom, which factors, if any, seem most associated with student performance on the assessment? And that's referring to this columns here. And which of these results in a higher total assessment score? So you're going to do the same kinds of things. You're going to do if average scores for grit score. You're going to do if average for attendance, and for feeder school, and say homerooms too. Yes. And then you're going to figure out which one of those results in the greatest variation, because notice what it's asking you. Given data on this, blah, 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 which seem most associated with school performance. So in other words, if everybody with 90% plus attendance has a 90, I don't think there are any 90s, but 90% on assessment, then that's something you would look at. A high attendance rate results in a high assessment. If everybody that is in the Lions homeroom has a total assessment score above 80, and everybody from Tigers has a total assessment score less than 80, then there is a correlation, and you're going to do if average formulas to find those areas that seem to be most associated. And this one is certainly going to be some text that you type in. You're going to have to tell me the factor that seems to be most associated with student performance is attendance. Low attendance equals low performance on the assessment. Again, that may not be correct, but you're going to figure up all of these and give me that information. So almost all of these are going to use if average scores. So you've basically got the answer to the first one. You basically have the answer to the second one, and you get to give me the answers to the last. Okay, I'm going to cut this video short and do a separate one for the second spreadsheet.